This is what has to be done in order for you to be able to sculpt with perfection. All right, all right. Welcome back to another session of Nail School with Greg Salo. So, when it comes to doing prep work, for those of you that are working with a hand file, right? What you want to be able to do is you have to remember that prepping a nail like this, I just want to show you guys. So for those of you who are in school and you're learning to prep the nail like this, that does absolutely nothing, does jack. You have to be able to remove shine, right, thoroughly. In order for you to be able to do that, again, I need gentle pressure. So if I'm working on the inside of my wrist, I just want to be able to show you, this is a very tender part. I need to be gentle. So I need to be able to remove shine from the perimeter of the nail. And again, notice how I'm working around the perimeter of the nail to fully remove shine. So once that's done, because majority of the lifting happens around the perimeter, then what I can do is I can take, right, the full surface of the hand file, and I'm working in a very gentle motion to thoroughly remove shine from the surface of the nail. It's almost like little baby circles that I'm using to remove shine. Now, again, that's if you have a hand file. For those of you guys that have an electric file, what you want to be able to do is use an arbor band. Okay, so these can be changed out with brand new ones. And I think a nice thing about this is if I needed to change out, I can hold my brush and slide it off. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that onto the mandrel, turn this upside down. And as you can see, it's on. So I need to work with it at a very low speed, very gentle speed. And for me to remove shine from the surface of the nail, again, I want to be able to use zone 1 of my barrel. I want to be able to tickle around the perimeter of the nail and then start using what I call a feathering motion. Feather, 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 to thoroughly remove shine off the surface of the nail without doing any damage at all. This is the most effective way for you guys to be able to prep. Again, it's not the tools that do damage, it is the fools that do damage. Okay, so once we remove shine from the surface of the nail, then your job is to clean the surface of the nail. In order to do that, I'm going to use swipe. Okay, so we're going to get swipe and we're going to cleanse the surface of the nail. This is going to remove all the oils, the dust, all the contaminants from the surface, right? Basically dehydrating it, preparing it for your bonder, which is protein bond. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add 2 coats of protein bond to the surface. So what I usually do is I go through and add a coat to all 10 nails. Then once I'm done doing that, I'm going to go back and I'm going to add another. Okay, boom. So again, this is what you're going to do when you are preparing for hard gel, if you're preparing for acrylic. You want to be able to, again, create a surface where you have not only great texture, but you're going to promote great adhesion with whatever you're working with. Okay, so when working with powder, okay, the most important thing is you have to get your consistency down. Okay, so let me just go ahead and break out my towel. Um, in order for you to get great consistency, you have to be able to pick up the bead with success. So if I submerge my brush and I tap it, again, if I just, like, here's the thing. For those of you guys that are just learning acrylic, you cannot do this. You can't tap from side to side. You can't do this, right? What you have to be able to do is just lightly press on one side. Again, lightly press on one side, loading the brush on this side so that it allows you to pull down and bounce inside the powder so that you get a fluffy bead on one side of your brush. If you make the mistake, again, of, and I'm going to show you guys a trick. I just poured out the liquid, right? Because there's a little bit of glitter inside there. What I like to do if I'm cleaning this out is, again, I'll take a couple of wipes. I'll just get in here. Let's just kind of rinse this out. I want to show you guys how to get some fresh liquid. Let's go ahead and just rinse that out. If you guys are pouring liquid inside your dish, I'll show you guys how to pour it inside your dish without spilling all over the place. If you hold it up to your ferrule, what you're going to be able to do is you're going to be able to pour it inside your dish without spilling down the side of the bottle. So you need this connection. Right? The connection is going to make sure that it dispenses into your dish without any problems at all. Okay, so again, don't make the mistake of taking your brush and then just doing this, getting it really, really wet and then just setting it. If you just set it into the surface like this, that's what happens, right? And then you end up trying to go for it. I'm going to get this. 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 And then eventually you're like, I got it. And then you don't. And then you're like, oh my, like you end up picking up an asteroid, a really, really nasty bead of acrylic. So if you submerge your brush and you have to physically pull down, you have to physically pull down into the powder and bounce in the powder so that you're able to get something that's going to release from your brush without sticking at all, right? And it doesn't matter, again, if you're working with something like this or even a really, really bright white powder. Like as you can see, if I pull down and I bounce, 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 you're going to be able to pick something up on one side of your brush, right, where it doesn't cake. Now, I'm using a number 12, right? If you were using something smaller, like a number 9, an 8 or 9, there's no difference. One of the things I want to be able to do, and I got a little bit of acrylic, didn't clean my brush well yesterday, so I'm just going to kind of rinse. If your brush is not too jammed up, you could always take it and just kind of just work it out like this. Do not use a blunt instrument and scrape it off. What you have to be able to do, again, is just be very, very gentle. If it's not super coated, then it's going to come off really, really easy and keep your brush really, really tight. But you're going to notice even with a smaller brush, if I lightly tap, this thing is fully loaded. You're going to notice if I pull and bounce on one side, I'm going to be able to pick up a bead on one side of my brush. That again is going to release really easy without sticking to my brush at all. That's really important, okay? So I choose to work with my 12, my signature series. For those of you guys that have it, it is the baddest ass brush ever, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and get to application. Once you're successful with picking a bead up, what we want to be able to do is, and with all my students that go through my programs, we focus on consistency, picking up the beads, being able to set it down, and completing the overlay first. What do I mean by that? Well, here's the thing. If you were working on a nail, let me just go ahead and put this back on. If you were working on the surface of the nail and you did not know how to set it to the surface, meaning if you just picked it up and then you just went, oh, I'm just going to just keep the nail flat and then just push it down like this, what ends up happening is you end up getting a mushroom cloud that literally runs towards the cuticle area and the sides. Like, this is a piece of crap. This is not going to do anything. All this is going to do is get you super frustrated, right? You're not going to be able to enjoy doing nails. All you're going to do is jam your brush up and create a lot of frustration, right? So you're going to notice, I'm just going to keep this to the side. I don't keep my finger flat. I don't come in like this. It's really important to angle the finger down towards the towel so that the positioning of my hand, look at this, balanced, right? I don't have it like this when I'm working. I'm not like tapping. I'm not tapping it like this, right? And doing that. I have control where the brush is resting inside my hand so that when I have connection to my brush, I am able to work without shaking. And for all of you guys that are starting right now, if you're holding your brush back here, it's very, very difficult for you to work. Like, think about it. If you were polishing the nails, and I'll just use nail polish as an example, right, or a top coat. But if I had a top coat and I was trying to, if I was using a brush, right, and I wasn't balancing, you end up bouncing all over the place as you're trying to apply it, right? Like it's very messy, and again, there's no balance at all. Like, one of the most important things I teach a lot of my students when they're coming through the beginner program is you have to have connection. This is really important. So if I'm holding the hand when I'm working, whether you're comfortable holding your pinky or your ring finger, right? You can see it doesn't matter if I'm using, again, look at this. If I'm working with a top coat, and I have a tendency to shake because I love to drink coffee, but if I hold my hand here, then like I could rest it, like nothing shakes. Nothing shakes. And then I can really focus on applying, great smooth application without losing connection. Connection is very important when you're working. You're trying to get your hand muscles, right, and your agility, right, your hand agility well balanced. And in order to be able to do that, you have to make sure that you have connection while you're working. Okay, so going back to this, if the finger is flat and the brush is this angle, everything is going to run into this. If I angle the finger down like this, and it doesn't matter whether you're working with acrylic and even gel, what you're trying to do is get the product to move from this point to this point in the least amount of effort. Not only that, when I'm working, if this was the natural nail, right, and I'm trying to create an overlay, I'm trying to create this, right? Right. I'm not worried about the thickness of my apex right here. What I'm trying to ensure around the cuticle area is that I have a very, very tight perimeter. So not just here. If I'm looking around the whole entire perimeter of the nail, I have to have it tight around the whole perimeter. So the only way to do that is not by forcing it. You can't force it. You have to allow the product to self-level. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Self-leveling is the fancy way of saying, no joke, it's just running all over the place. So you have to be able to control the run, right? The run, right? Again, the run. The run is important. The run is self-leveling. So if I submerge my brush and I tap it and I remove the right amount of liquid, I'm going to show you something crazy. Watch this. If I take my brush and I tap it and I pick this up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got it. And then I set it down and then I start doing this. If I start to do this, look what happens. Everything starts running out of control and it like is running off of the side. And then I have no way of controlling how the acrylic is going to move on the nail. So let me just go ahead and remove this and show you how you're going to control the consistency. If I submerge my brush, okay, and again, I'm able to tap it off. If I'm able to successfully bounce and pick up a bead, watch this. If I just wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at 5, I slowly remove. Take a look how flat my brush is. Dude, look at that. Not only do I have stability, I actually have the time to touch around the perimeter of the nail while the bead is slowly moving. Look at that. I could just like really kind of touch, kind of guide it into place. I just want to show you guys, forget the fact that I'm able to get it to run. Look at this. If I just kind of flatten the side out, you can see that, look at that. Like you can see how it naturally creates that arch. All I did was wait. I did not start pulling at it. All I'm doing is taking the tip of the brush and literally touching as I'm not just this part, I'm literally guiding it around the contour, right, of the whole entire nail as the product is moving from this point to this point. So again, let's take this off and get a new tip. Let's go ahead and go over. This is these keys are like necessary. These fundamentals are required for you to master acrylic. And again, like if I'm working with Cover Pink, if I was working with Speed Clear, there is no difference. You're going to notice if I submerge my brush, and again, I'm able to pull and bounce, 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 bounce. The only difference is I would say I would wait 1, 2, 3, and then lightly touch around the perimeter. Watch this. Try doing this, you guys. Look at this. All I'm doing is holding the side now, holding the side, right? As the product is moving down, like creating that natural ramp. At this point right here, if I wanted to seal the front, all I would have to do is just be really light-handed, barely touch, right? Barely touch. I'm not going to like force it down. If I force it down, the pressure ends up putting a gigantic divot inside the nail and messing the structure that you're trying to create, right? Your goal is to try to create this without having to physically pull the product down and around, okay? So when we are teaching everybody how to work, you'll notice that, again, I'm going to go back to this. Like, especially if you guys are working with a cover powder or you're working with any type of core powders, you know, what you want to be able to do. I'm sorry, let me just clear this out so that I have a nice fresh towel to work with. You want to be able to get it to a point where when I'm submersing, right? What I mean by submersing, I'm getting it all the way down. Look at that. Like you can see how much liquid is inside my dish. I don't have it filled to the top. I don't create lake monomer. We're not here to create lake monomer. If I submerge my brush and barely touch it, it's going to give me the ability to pull down and bounce inside the powder. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to release. I'm going to use the tip of my brush. I'm just going to lightly touch around the perimeter. If it starts to bow out, all I want you to do is hold it in place. Look at that. Just practice bringing it back up, bringing it back up, right? And then from this point, if I decided that I want to pull from the front, cool. Just like hold it in place. And then light, as it starts to dry, you can lightly start to feather, and then you're going to notice, you're like, oh, you know what? It's starting to kind of pull off the side. Well, if you make your brush flat and then you just kind of pull down and through, you're going to notice, look at that, how tight it ends up becoming at my sides. If there's a little bit of a space, I can always make a wedge on my brush. I can come in, I can just bring that up. And then now, once it starts to dry, I can lightly start to feather through the surface. And what you're doing is you're creating a beautiful, natural overlay from this point to this point. Why does that make all the difference? A lot of people ask me all the time, how do you create the upper arch? The upper arch is created as the product is drying. The arch is created. You don't have to create a tremendous amount of thickness for it not to crack. You just have to make sure that your support, right, is through here and you have it through here. Everything else has to be tight, meaning flush, 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 flush. Why? That way, when I'm filing into shape, I don't have any issues at all. Okay, so let's go to the snail. All right, so let's just go ahead and take some acrylic nippers here. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the whole entire surface, right? So if we were going to build something on the surface of the nail, what kind of consistency are we going to need? Well, for those of you guys that follow, I'm going to take, again, my form. I'm going to pre-pinch my form. I'm going to create a handle on my form, okay? Now, again, opening up the form creates what we call a C-curve. You're going to notice that we have a handle, okay? Now, here's the thing. The arms are open. I need to create space so that I could either rock it onto the nail or I could use the handle to mount this. So for those of you guys that are struggling, right, if you use the handle method, then what I can do is I could just get it right up to the edge. And as you can see, I could get it right there, boom, right? So there's one way of taking the handle and just kind of getting it underneath and then just rocking it up until it's straight and then securing the sides. For those of you that are comfortable by holding the sides, then what you can normally do is, especially if it's tight, is get it in those corners and then use your fingers to rock it up. My finger right here, I'm using that to rock it up because a lot of people, and the reason why I cut the finger like this is no one's going to have perfect nails. Everyone's going to have like these really, really hard edges to get underneath. In order for you to make it perfect, you either have to adjust the nail form. Actually, 99% of the time, you're going to have to adjust the nail form. There's no way of getting around it. Okay, so we have to be able to build a tip. Do not build something this long. For those of you guys that are starting, remember, I need something manageable. I need something active length. So if I was going to create something this long, think about it. I need to bounce. And what I'm going to immediately do is remove the liquid from the back of my brush. It's going to turn the powder matte. Once I set it to the free edge and wipe my brush, I now have clay. From the top of the bead, I'm going to walk it to the corner, get it even with my growth channel. I'm going to walk it down the side. I'm going to get it even with the growth channel, walk it from the top of the bead until it's tight. I'm going to come in. I only dip my brush to clean my brush. Once I have it even from side to side, now what we can do, even if I'm walking this to the top and I get a little bit of product onto the side, I'm just trying to create an even structure. And you can even see, like if I'm trying to square this off, for those of you guys that want to be able to build a square nail, notice I don't go from this side to this side to this side. I get it even on this side and then I walk it back over the top and I get it even. And then I walk it back over the top. See the connection of my hands? My connection of my hands. That way I'm not shaking while I'm working. So again, you're going to notice, right? And at this point, as it starts to dry out, then I can start to brush it forward. I could really create the perfect tip. I could create something that's absolutely flawless from side to side. And if you're looking at this from the top profile, right, you're going to notice, even though I have a pointed, right, form, if I'm creating an active length nail, and what I mean by active length is it's not more than I'd say half the length of the nail bed to the edge, completely even with my growth channels on both sides. I do not make them wider. If you're looking at the side profile, you're also going to notice that the extension of the tip is a perfect extension from the end of the growth channel, out. It does not dip. We don't dip, or it doesn't ramp up, right? What we're doing is creating perfection. All right, so once we have that, now we're going to do this. Right, so once you have your free edge built, watch this. We're going to submerge our brush. We're going to lightly tap. Always flatten out your powder. Don't create divots inside. That way it's very easy to pick up. So if I submerge my brush, I get it super wet. I lightly tap. I'm going to pull down. I'm going to bounce. I'm going to count. 1, 2, 3, 4. At 5, slowly release. I'm going to use the tip of my brush. I'm going to walk around the perimeter of the nail. I'm going to hold my sides. Now what I'm going to end up doing from the corner, I'm going to pull from the front. That one's starting to slide. I'm just going to hold the side up. I'm going to pull from the front, right? Look at that, right? Hold the side up. Hold it up. And then you're going to notice it stops. Like, dude, wow. Now all I have to do is I can literally start to feather this. Oh my gosh. Able to feather this all the way through the whole entire surface. And then once it starts to dry, like if you have great balance with your brush, you're able to basically shape the whole entire surface without creating this monstrosity. getting it even from side to side, right? Look at my sidewalls. Everything is tight. Everything is blending perfect. All I would have to do if I have the right size bead is a controlled pull all the way through the nail because everything is drying towards perfection, right? I'm able to get this as even as I can because again, I'm doing this. The only difference is now what I'm trying to do. I don't go live with anybody, you guys. Right? So if you guys want to go live with me, I don't do it. Right? So you're going to notice right here, I have it completely even all the way through. You can see from the top. Look at this. If you're looking down the barrel of the nail, you can see how rounded everything is. You can see from the side, look at this. Everything is contoured, tight to the cuticle areas from the side, right? You're going to notice, right, as I work the product towards the back, it's creating that natural arch all the way through. The extension of my free edge is absolutely perfect coming out the side. This is what has to be done in order for you to be able to sculpt with perfection. Okay? So again, it's combination, good prep, consistency, knowing how to put the forms on, picking up the powder, understanding how to do the overlay, getting it to run, understanding the positioning, how to hold your hand while you're working as you're working around the edges, learning to basically, you're falling in love, right, with the run. You're learning to absolutely, um, you, I mean, you're really accepting the fact that the run is one of the most important things when it actually comes to doing nails, right? You have to take advantage of that self-leveling nature of acrylic. And then once you actually have the structure, now since I have this structure, feels like velvet now, this is going to be very easy for me to file into shape because my cuticle areas, as you can see, there's barely anything around the edges. It's super, super tight. I have a little bit of space as well, and that's what matters, right? This is going to help you guys get a lot better. I'm not going to get into the filing aspect of doing this. I really wanted to focus today on the key fundamentals for all of you guys that are learning how to do nails. If you guys are taking the journey, you're in nail school, this is going to help you guys tremendously. I posted some 3D nail artwork on Instagram. You can go to Instagram Live and watch that as well. I actually posted it on Young Nails Instagram, so if you guys want to go check that out. For those of you guys that need information, jump on the website, www.youngnails.com. Go to YouTube. There's a tremendous amount of information on YouTube. There's over 2,000 videos for you to watch. And for those of you guys that are coming out for my OWC, which is my 1-week course, prepare because we're going to take you to a whole nother level. Love you guys. Appreciate your time. Look forward to doing the next episode of Nail School. Again, good luck and keep me posted with the progress that you guys are making. Love you much. Peace.
Subscribe the channel now. Subscribe the channel now. Subscribe the channel